back. Well, the Prime Minister has accused a Chinese naval ship of intimidation and bullying after it fired a laser at an Australian aircraft. 10 personnel were aboard the Air Force jet when it was targeted by a military-grade laser. The Department of Defence has demanded an explanation for the incident. They are yet to receive a response. For more on this, I'm joined by Independent Senator Rex Patrick. Thanks for your time. What we know about a laser is generally they're used quite often to so-called paint the target. So an actual firing of live ammunition can happen a second later. This would have been very unnerving for those that were on the jet.
Well, one of the difficulties with this situation is the power of the lasers can also cause the aircraft to end up potentially crashing, damaging aircraft systems. But you make a good point. In these sorts of situations, had it not been for the professionalism of the Royal Australian Air Force captain and TACO, then we may have seen a return of fire. And that's the difficulty with these sorts of situations, is they can quickly get out of control. So we can be a bit thankful for the professionalism of our Defence Forces in this instance.
What explanation can there be? Because when we're talking about countries watching on, and the talk is of whether they were getting in position to watch military exercises coming up, and that's allowed. But when is pointing a laser in this fashion ever, correct or appropriate conduct?
Well, it is an escalation, but I want to take you back to perhaps a more important issue. You and I talked about Chinese vessels visiting us with Talisman Sabre, exercise Talisman Sabre last year. We are seeing a continual arrival in our waters of Chinese vessels. So we've seen them in the Arafura Sea, the Coral Sea, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean. We've got a situation where we've got a Prime Minister who wants to deliver us a future nuclear-powered submarine in 2040 in order to be able to get our submarines up into the South China Sea in circumstances where the Chinese Navy are already here. There's been a monumental screw-up in defence policy here. We've got a situation where we've got rising tensions. It's on our back door, and we don't have the necessary capabilities in our Defence Force to be able to deal with these things properly because of failed procurements.
What does it say right now about Australia-China relations? We had the new ambassador and some kind of words, but then this happens.
Well, again, this has been this has been coming for some period of time. We've watched the geopolitical situation change from China, not taking calls from our minister, applying trade sanctions. Last week at Senate Estimates, I talked to the head of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, asking questions about the level of tension between China and Taiwan. It has never been higher. There's a tinderbox happening there, and we know that there's a potential that if Russia invades the Ukraine, that may present an opportunity of dividing US forces, which are not as capable as they used to be in terms of fighting on multiple fronts. It may be a catalyst for the Chinese to turn their mind to Taiwan.
What about the reporting of this? Some cynicism around how it made its way into Australian media. Is that justified, or is it, an escalation like this always going to be published in some way?
I think these sorts of things are often published, but what we've seen playing out over the last couple of weeks is politics being mixed in with national security issues, and we've had ASIO coming out, the head of ASIO coming out and calling that out as inappropriate. It is inappropriate. To Scott Morrison and to Anthony Albanese, we need to focus on the real issues, and that is making sure our Defence Force is prepared for any eventuation that may occur. And we've just seen an example of that, and that should be a wake-up call for both of them.
Right, to both of them is your message. There's a lot of criticism of the government elevating this, and then after a whole week of trying to take slightly higher ground, Anthony Albanese threw the Manchurian candidate accusation back at Scott Morrison. Is that the problem, that it's turning into this unseemly debate?
It's turning into an unhelpful debate. We shouldn't be mixing politics and national security. We do need bipartisanship. That doesn't mean we have to agree on every point, but unfortunately, we've got an election coming and we've got parties making politics out of this, whilst we've got Royal Australian Air Force people up in the air doing their job and confronting what are now escalating reactions from the Chinese. That's where our focus ought to be.
Okay.
We've just had the cancellation of a $2.4 billion submarine program, a $3.5 billion helicopter program, the Army's battle management system. We've got failures on the defence procurement front, and we've got politicians playing politics.
Just finally, we have this Magnitsky Act, which can be used against foreign agents, even foreign governments, any representatives from them, for various reasons, including if they are essentially disrupting peace. Should this be used in some way against Russia?
Look, we do have the ability now to sanction Russian individuals and Russian entities. And the very purpose of this was to be able to have a counterweight to any aggression. My view is that it's too late to apply sanctions as bombs are dropping on Kiev. We've got a mechanism in place where we can send a very strong message to the Russians, along with our international counterparts. It's been called on by the Ukraine president for us to do so. And I think the government should give very serious consideration to enacting those powers ahead of any conflict to try and avoid an invasion by the Russians into the Ukraine.